Hey everybody, Joey Fameli here, coming to you from my own cave with my favorite things for the year of 2025. Where did the year go? I got some camera accessories, I got some books, I got some games. Let's jump right into it with one of my favorite little light meters coming out of this year. Now, I use light meters for mostly video and film, where I need to check ratios and check exposures on sets, but I don't need this kind of big bulky stuff when I'm shooting with 35mm still cameras out in the wild. And a lot of the cameras I use are pretty old. I have some, Olympus and Nikons where the light meters have the internal light meters have either degraded over time and give me unreliable readings, or they just don't have them. And so, I had this conundrum. I can learn the Sunny 16 rule and figure out math. I can travel on with one of these. But when I started doing this film project on Tested, a user actually reached out to me with a Kickstarter project he was doing about a little light meter he was developing called the Hideko Lime 2 light meter. This is a little, very simple, easy to use, one button, one dial, cold shoe connected light meter that you can attach to any of your old still cameras and give yourself something that you can get a reading with. Now, it's pretty simple to use. It uses like a little watch battery, one of those little CR circular batteries. You throw it right in there. It lasts forever because you turn it on. It'll stay on for a few moments and then turn itself back off, so you don't need to worry about turning it on, turning it off. It's very quick. It activates almost instantaneously, and it goes through all the modes that you want. Aperture priority, shutter priority. You can do it full manual, but essentially you just tell it what your ISO or ASA of your film stock is, and then I have it right now in aperture priority mode. I just use the dial to tell it what aperture I'm at. Let's say I want to shoot at 4 or 5.6. It has like a little sensor here. It's like a 35 degree, I want to say a 35 degree cone of optics here that is center weighted on the exposure, and it'll give me a general reading of what my shutter speed should be. And that will put me in the ballpark of what I should be exposing my shutter to or exposing my film to. It's a great tool to have when I'm quickly shooting with some of these older cameras that require my attention in a lot more other ways. So some of these cameras are pretty nuanced in terms of how to operate them and how to focus them, and it's really nice having this one extra reliable light meter tool at my disposal, so I don't have to sit there and think about that Sunny 16 rule or just try and gauge my exposure. Some people are really good who shoot film are really good at just being outside and knowing what their general exposure triangle should be. Not me yet. So that is the Hideko Lime 2 light meter. When we shot Michelin earlier this year, or last year, I think it was earlier this year, we needed to attach cameras to the outside of cars that would be drifting through snow and icy conditions, and we needed something that was robust. And so I bought a combo kit from Tilta. Tilta is one of the companies that I tend to use when I look for camera cages. Them and Condor Blue are kind of my two right now. But for Tilta, I've always bought in cages. I've never checked out their suction cup or articulating arm devices. And I've always had a very strange relationship with articulating arms. I've never really found any that I like. I got a whole box here of them. There's a Tilta one that holds on to 2 rails, but this is much too big for a lot of situations. These ones are just too big and fat and heavy. The small rig one is decent, but it has broken apart on me, and it's kind of a little bit too, a little bit too rattly. So I've always had a problem. It's a Goldilocks situation, right? I always had from finding that one that was just right. And I think I've gotten pretty close with this Tilta articulating arm. Like most, it's got the ball joints and the single knob here that tightens and loosens it. You can actually remove the ball joint with the accessory and attach different ball joints with other accessories if you want. I have this quarter inch screw with 2 anti-twist divots. That was key for this to make sure that nothing was moving around and rotating around as we went to different conditions. It's pretty light. It locks up really nice and well, and like once you lock it, it holds. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break like some of the others. It feels pretty well engineered. Now, the arm was just part of it. The suction cup was the other part. I've used various GoPro suction cups, which are questionable, but this Tilta vacuum pump one was actually really handy for being out there in the cold. Wipe down some snow or ice off a car, stick this thing on. I used the vacuum pump, and that thing held on through some of the most rigorous conditions that I've ever been a part of It's pretty simple to use. They do make an electronic version, which I believe, I haven't used, but I believe you just attach it and press electronics and it'll attach itself. But for this, you essentially stick that suction cup onto the side of a vehicle, give it a bunch of pumps until all of the air is evacuated out. And then from there, you have a nice strong grab onto the side of your vehicle or whatever thing you're doing. The Tilta suction cup has 3 1/4-inch holes with the divot points sort of all around, the anti-twist divot points all around for these little nubs to go into. So you can lock it into any one of these or add multiple accessories to them. But this combo here was what shot pretty much all of the car stuff at Michelin. So right there, for what that is, for how minimal of a setup that is, that was so robust and so rigid and helped us out on that Michelin shoot to get to all of those crazy car shots, again, in rain, snow, drifting, trucks, cars, whatever. That's the Tilta suction cup and the Tilta articulating arm that have been one of my favorite things of this year. Next, we move on to another little rigging tool, the Condor Blue Cine Jaws that can attach to whatever. It's big enough for speed rail. It's big enough for your one wheel, for skateboards. It's got a really nice, like smooth dial that brings that jaw in, locks in real tight. You have a bunch of mounting points all over the place. You have NATO rails on the side here for any kind of NATO attachments. You have 1/4-inch, you have those anti-twist divots, you have a 3/8 jack, you have this loop for safety. This is a clamp that I would trust on our trusses at the office for holding up lights. I mean, it's super rigid. The safety loop allows me to throw in a cable to make sure that thing stays nice and secure. You can attach baby pins onto the clamp, and then from the baby pin, you can add a gobo head. You can put, I can grab that Tilta articulating arm and mount that through the 1/4-inch and have that come off, put a camera onto that thing. It is a version of the Mayfair clamp that is made just so much more useful because of the ability to accessorize this through that NATO sled, through those screw points. Once you screw this thing in and you can feel that strength it holds on, you know that this thing is not gonna go anywhere. That is the Condor Blue Cine Jaws. Lastly, on the camera and production tool arsenal here is the SmallRig VB99 V-mount battery. I use V-mount batteries on most camera things. It locks onto the back of a camera plate that's on the back of a camera and has tons of different outputs that give you power to your monitor, to your camera, to your audio receiver, to your follow focus. You can power everything through those batteries. So you grab a few of them, charge them up for the day, and you're good to go with powering everything. They've always been a little bit dumb in terms of information though. Like there's usually 4 bars. You press a button, it'll show you like how many of those bars, 2 bars light up, you're about 50% on your battery. SmallRig came out with this one to give you a little bit more information and make them essentially a little more useful. And I'll explain why. So V-mount batteries have this V-lock in the back. And to charge them, you either bring with you a charger that has those V-locks, lock it in, it'll charge the battery in a number of hours, or you have a D-tap. A D-tap is this connection on the side of pretty much all V-mount batteries and Anton Bauer gold mount batteries. That is a connection point. So oftentimes the camera has a D-tap going into the camera and that's how you power that. And so this is another way you can charge your battery. You bring with you a block that has a D-tap, plug into the wall, use your D-tap. This camera battery is great because it has a bunch of more inputs and outputs on the battery itself. Now, if you look here, you'll see a USB-C, USB-A, and then you have a couple more outs built into the battery. This is normally not built into these batteries. You usually have a D-tap, maybe a USB-A, but typically all of this stuff is on plates. This way you can buy a pretty simple plate and still have tons of different outs. You can also charge this on a USB-C, which is awesome because now I can just bring my MacBook and a charger, and when I'm not charging my MacBook, I can just plug this thing right into the MacBook and charge the whole battery within a couple hours, which is great. USB-C charging for like all of my production gear makes travel jobs so much easier. Not having to travel with V-mount battery chargers is awesome. The GoPros now charge on USB-C. having my camera battery charged in USB-C too, it just keeps the cable management to a minimum in my suitcase when I'm traveling. You also get a little more information. So if I press the power button here, you'll see, nice. You'll see that I have data here that tells me how much battery life I have. But then when I also start plugging things into this battery, it'll tell me how much wattage it's pulling from each accessory. So it'll say, oh, your USB-C is pulling X amount of power. Your USB-A is pulling X amount of power. That's great information to have if I need to start conserving battery life as I move on through the day. I use this thing to charge my phone. I use it to charge my laptop. This is also 99 watt hours, which is perfect because the TSA only allows you to travel with batteries that go up to 100 watt hours. So they are skirting that with just 1 watt hour below, meaning that I can bring as many as I want of these with me on the airplane at any time. Anymore, I have a bigger version of this. That one, you cannot travel with that one, but the 99 can go with me wherever. That is the SmallRig V-Mount 99 battery. Definitely one of my favorite camera tools this year. All right, so this next segment I'm gonna call, ooh, my dad back, which is basically all of the accessories and tools that help me hold and operate a camera for long periods of time without damaging my body. The first is this tripod by SmallRig. This is the Tribex. This is in collaboration with the YouTuber Potato Jet. And, Gene Nagata is a filmmaker, a commercial director. He's been running a production company for a little over a decade. And because of that experience, he's able to make these really dynamic, really high quality gear and camera review videos on YouTube. If you haven't watched his videos, just go check them out. So he worked with SmallRig to develop a tripod that is very fast to deploy, very quick, lightweight, can travel around really easily. And I think they have been somewhat successful in this. This is like a sub $700 tripod. I've used pretty much every sub $700 tripod, and I think this is one of the best qualities out there for that price range. Now, it's carbon fiber, like I said, very light. You move around very quickly, but I'm bearing the lead here. The great thing about this is this new clutch hydraulic system to deploy your legs. So usually you use knobs and dials to pull your legs out one at a time. This allows you to just grab this little motorcycle handle here and deploy the legs. If you need it leveled, you just plug it back in, move it around. You flick the switch here and it locks back up so that you don't accidentally deploy it. Fold it in. Everything on this tripod is all kind of a one-handed operation. So all the switches, like the buttons to remove certain aspects of this can all be done with one hand. Again, this is a SmallRig Tribex tripod by SmallRig and Potato Jet collaboration. Really great tripod. Okay, so next up is my Bebop camera saddle. Cinesaddle is an Australian-based company. They're the standard camera saddle company. It's about $400 for a bag, very highly durable, high-quality bag that's filled with like polystyrene beads that allow it to mold to the camera that is placed on it and provide a good amount of dampening and rigidity when rigidity and mobility to move your camera the way you want it. So, like I said, Cinesaddle is the standard version, but since then a lot of other companies have been making them. There's Bebop bags, a few others. I chose Bebop because I like jazz. This is a company based over in Turkey, I believe. You can order this for about 120, 130 bucks, so considerably less than the Cinesaddle, but it's been a pretty good comp, I'd say. I'd use both, and I could feel the difference in price, but for what you are trying to do, I think this Cinesaddle camera bag by Bebop is perfectly awesome for a lot of stuff I do. So what would you use this for? Well, you can make car mounts, right? So like I said, you kind of mold your camera around. You can throw it on some ratchet straps around the hood of a car. Those polystyrene beads in here they're gonna dampen the vibrations, so you're not gonna get local vibrations. Clamp this down enough and you can drive around, do awesome car shots and adjust as you see fit. Hi-hats. Hi-hats are a tripod that is very low to the ground when you want to get those like real low shots looking up. You typically would use like a hi-hat, basically a hi-hat tripod. It's essentially a tripod head with tiny little legs that spread out wide so that can sit on the ground. I've found that I've been using this Bebop bag as a alternative to that. I just throw it on the ground and I can put my camera, so you can see that, set my camera up, and again, those styrofoam polystyrene beads are rigid enough to sort of hold the camera where it needs to be. I can frame up my shot, and there you go. There's your poor man's hi-hat. Lastly is my favorite and perhaps most silly way of using this is essentially there you go. I don't even need to hold it. No hands. You shoot an hour-long interview. I can just have my Bebop bag here, my Cine saddle, whatever brand you want. Throw it around your shoulder. There you go. I can shoot interviews all day. I can adjust. The great thing about this, I'm going to talk about the Easy Rig in a minute. The Easy Rig is something similar. It gives you the ability to do what's called like steady sticks. Basically handheld, but steady enough that you wouldn't sense a whole lot of handheld operation. So this is great if I just want to shoot an interview with two people, not do a whole lot of dynamic movement. Maybe there's some other cameras doing that stuff and I just need to be a safety. If something crazy happens though, launch right off and now I'm in it. See? Back on, interview. Boom. That's great. It's a lot more comfortable than an Apple box. That's the Bebop camera bag. Okay, and finally we have the Mantis by Blackbird. This is an attachment for my Easy Rig. I covered the Easy Rig as one of my favorite things a couple years ago, but there are a few limitations with the Easy Rig. The Easy Rig is, so quick recap, the Easy Rig is a vest with a pillar that comes out of the back that goes into a bar here that has a tension rope that clamps onto the top of your camera handle and puts all the weight of your camera onto your hips so that you can basically, well, let me show you. Have support holding your camera without actually holding your camera. This is great for, again, like the Cine saddle, this is great for maintaining these steady sticks style shots so that if I'm running long interviews, I can really just stand here all day. None of that weight is affecting my shoulders or arms, all of it's on my hips. Walking with this thing is very tricky because everything's on your back here and everything is rigid, and so you get a lot of bounce. So it's not very much, it's not really a steady cam in that as you're running with it, it'll bounce all over the place, right? And so there are different options. People have made different attachments that attach to the top of the Easy Rig, and essentially the Mantis is one of those, and in my opinion, one of the best ones. So let me show you what is there and how that works. It uses this elastic pulley system. This is a double, you can get it in quads. You could attach two of these if you have a really heavy loadout. My camera is generally not that heavy. I wanna say 8 or 9 pounds. This thing can, I think, go up to like 40 pounds. So you adjust the tension by the amount of play that you give the elastic, and then you attach it onto the top of the camera, and now you have your Mantis attached to your Easy Rig, giving it something more akin to a steady cam system than just an Easy Rig. It basically allows you to move, and the elastic dampens and takes all of that bump and movement with it. This has been a really good system to use on a variety of projects. I've shot a number of interviews with it where I can move around very quickly. It allows, very fluid movement if I wanted to. I can step with very little disruption to the camera shake. I shot a short film not too long ago that had about a 45-second choreographed fight scene with two people that had dialogue in it, right? And so our coverage was a couple masters and cross coverage of those people doing the fight scene while talking in different axes of the Z plane. So there was a few lines up here, a few lines back here, back up, and then down to the ground, right? And this is the perfect tool for that kind of shoot. As I was able to dance around this fight scene, come up, go back down, slam it on the ground. Now I don't need to bend my whole body down. I just pull the camera, and because of this, because the elastic, it's not as jerky as the tension on the Easy Rig, and so it just comes down into this spot, into this mark, and very fluidly and cleanly. And so I was able to run around this entire fight scene with this thing and shoot some great coverage of that. I think that's like the perfect scenario for the Mantis or any kind of Easy Rig stabilized system. So that is the Mantis by Blackbird Easy Rig attachment. Now let's get into books. It's been a little bit slow on the reading front because it's been very busy on the family side of things, but there's a couple books that I picked up that I wanted to share. Now, Roger Deakins, he's a acclaimed cinematographer, Academy Award winning, very well respected, started to get into, he does a podcast with his wife where he interviews the entire film industry apparently. But he's also written a couple books since then. And one of them I picked up a few years ago. I think this was his first book, was called Byways. This isn't my favorite things, but this is a book that I picked up by him that was just his photography. He does a lot of just photography throughout his travels of the world. And it's an interesting document to see what catches the eye of a cinematographer like Roger Deakins, what kind of composition he sees in everyday world. It's a pretty fun book to have on a coffee table, but it's not the book that I wanted from him. This is Reflections on Cinematography by Roger Deakins. This one just came out a couple months ago. I'm not actually done with it. I have like half the book left to go. But this is a book that encompasses his entire life. It's part biography, part memoir, part technical analysis, part diagrams, lots of journal about what it was like to work on these different films throughout his career, his collaborations with the Coen brothers, with Denis Villeneuve, with Sam Mendes. He talks in detail about all of this stuff and draws back on this insanely good memory of how he lit these very iconic shots, or what his diagrams were like, or how it was working with the team he had on this movie, or the gaffer over here, and all the different collaborators that he's had throughout the years. And what kind of relationships he's had with them, and how he's worked as a cinematographer. His documentary career was a fascinating read. It was a wild time of him going around the world shooting some pretty insane stuff before moving over to music videos, but then launching into the film feature, the feature film part of his career. It's really fascinating to read. I think any budding cinematographer needs to have this just to understand what the life of a cinematographer entails, what it's like to work, what it's like to light for these big budget movies, or what it's like to shoot for these small indie documentary style projects. That is Reflections on Cinematography by Roger Deakins. This next book I got is called Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground by Stu Horvath, a guide to tabletop role-playing games from D&D to Mothership. This is a book that documents every single tabletop role-playing game, from starting with like 1970s Dungeons and Dragons all the way to current stuff. Now, Dungeons and Dragons is probably the most well-known or popular, but there are hundreds of different systems and different role-playing games that came out throughout the years, throughout the last 50 plus years. This one has a few pages dedicated to each game. It talks about the cultural history, the design analysis, and then these sort of stack on to the historical inspirations from each other and how those have developed over time. I think if you are a fan of tabletop role-playing game as a cultural phenomenon, or as a gameplay style system, it's a really fascinating read about the tabletop universe. And that leads me right into Delta Green. This is the current tabletop role-playing game I am playing at the moment. Our D&D group just finished up a giant campaign that has been going on for the last couple of years, and so we thought we'd have a little bit of a break from the 5e universe and try out something completely different. Delta Green is a Lovecraftian style horror, suspense, tabletop role-playing game. You do not create characters that will become badass warriors over the course of many, many sessions. You create a character that exists in our real world. My character is a CDC biologist with bonds and people he cares about back at home, but he's also a Delta Green agent. He gets a call. The call comes in to all the Delta Green agents that are going to be assigned to this case, and they come and they investigate the supernatural. Well, again, this is very Lovecraftian. So the thing you are finding are cosmic horror, supernatural occurrences that you are trying to stop, contain, and cover up, or one of your main goals is to not let any of this supernatural information reach the public. This needs to be quiet. So your job is to do whatever is necessary, meaning this game puts you into some hard positions, some dark places. And throughout this process, your character is slowly getting chipped away from a sanity standpoint. Now, like I said, it's not a character that you're going to be growing and becoming much stronger over time. You'll become better with skills, and the skill system is actually quite interesting. It all uses the same set of dice you would in D&D, but it uses a lot more 2d10s or 100-side rolls to do a lot of your skills. When you fail a skill, you slowly become better at that skill. Like lockpicking, for example, if I just keep failing at it over time, my character will actually become better at it, which is a fun little mechanic. But every time I have to step in and maybe kill a monster or see something I wasn't supposed to, a little bit of my sanity starts to chip away. The bonds that I have back at home, my wife, my sister, my dog, I start to lose those as I become much more enveloped in the work of Delta Green. And so there's a lot of like compromises, hard choices, very, very horrific. It can almost be kind of like scary game, but it's diversion from what D&D was, and we've been having a lot of fun with it, especially us being Lovecraftian or horror fans ourselves as players. That is Delta Green. I bought the box set with the 2 books, but there's a lot of PDF material that they supply online, or there's like a quick start guide if you really want to just dip your toes in that you can download on their website and make a character and try a one-shot there. And lastly, I would like to highlight one of my most favoriteest things of this year, and that was the fun exploration I was able to do on the Tested Teams channel. Now, 1 year ago from today, we announced that we'd be launching a second channel called Tested Teams that we would use as a experimental playground to check out other different areas of interest and create content that sort of exists outside of the main Tested programming, and also cover some behind the scenes material, whatever the Tested team was really involved with at that time, a place for them to experiment. And this has been super fulfilling creatively as I've been able to go to the American Society of Cinematographer house, the ASC house in Los Angeles, and talk with Steve Gaynor and check out all of the film cameras throughout film history. I got to go to a pinball expo and check out some pinball machines and do some pinball content there. I've been doing my lens reviews over there, my production journals, production talk, been able to just think about content in different ways to better connect with you, our audience. And it's been fun seeing all the other different various pieces of content that our team members have been coming up with. So if you haven't yet, go over there and check that out. And that will be it for me today. Thank you all again. Thank you to the audience for letting us play on YouTube for you all. And we will see you guys in 2026. I'm Joey Fameli. Goodbye.